Hello students, it's Mr Mayhew here, just going through a how useful are sources B and C for an inquiry into. This is for our GCSE Weimar and Nazi Germany Edexcel paper. This is worth 8 marks and the structure that I'm going to talk about today is COPS. Okay, let's start. Hello GCSE students, hello, just Mr Mayhew here. I wanted to do a quick kind of COPS 8 mark Weimar and Nazi Germany masterclass because I have noticed through various mocks and through various kind of marking and whole class feedback, I have identified that this is something as a cohort that we struggle with. So hopefully this video is going to be available to you on my channel. I'll also send it through Edgelink and Teams and all of the different channels, so you can always look back at this ahead of any mock exams, ahead of your real exam, or if you are just doing a little bit of revision. So let's take it away. So firstly, I want to draw your attention to the question on the screen there. So question 3A always asks you how useful a source is, okay? But it's not just one source, it asks you to analyse 2 sources. So of course, GCSE students, we know, don't we, that if it's asking us to analyse 2 sources, we would write down 2 paragraphs. I have highlighted in yellow the key words, the key vocabulary in that question. So firstly, it is asking you how useful sources are. So I would expect to see the word useful once, maybe even twice, maybe even 3 times in your paragraphs, because then you are addressing and you are showing the examiner that you are addressing the question. Okay, and of course the question is asking about the German recovery in the years 1924 to 1929. So we have to make sure that our knowledge links in to that period of history, and in particular the topic of German recovery, okay, 1924 to 1929. So you have to use both sources, but my friends, we also have to use our own knowledge. So at this point, you should have some own knowledge ready to go before you even read the sources, because you're like, oh, German recovery in the years 1924 to 1929. I know that that's all about Stresemann. I know that's all about the things that he did to the economy, international relations. You could argue maybe you could use some golden age Weimar culture own knowledge as well. Okay, I wanted to model the very first one for you. Source B is really difficult, okay, and I want you to kind of do that independently after watching me model source C. So of course, in your exam, if you start with source C and then go on to source B, you're not going to be disciplined for that. You're not going to be marked down, okay. So I'm going to model source C because it's a nice, easy paragraph, okay? So, firstly, before I read the paragraph to you, we have a structure in the history department at Bower Park, okay, for these 8 mark questions. Really, really simply, it is content, okay, the content of the source. I want you to tell me what you can see in the source, what you're reading in the source. I then want you to back it up with a little bit of own knowledge, but in particular, own knowledge about the inquiry. I then want you to back it up with your provenance, okay? Who wrote the source? Why did they write it? Okay, what year did they write it in? Does that tell us anything? Does that make the source more or less useful? And then finally, a very short sentence summarising and linking it back to the question. Why is it useful? Or in the case of why is it not useful? Okay, so source C. Source C is written by Stresemann himself. It's the speech that's taken directly from his mouth. And this is in 1929. So the economy is booming by this time. International relations are increasing. Okay, we've got the joining of the League of Nations at this time. So Stresemann is the main man who knows the economy. Okay, he is the one who, after the Treaty of Versailles has been signed, hyperinflation, the occupation of the Ruhr, he is the man who single-handedly stabilizes everything from the economy and from the international relations perspective, and he can build on it. Okay, build on it. So this is a speech by himself in 1929. The economic position is only flourishing on the surface. Germany is in fact dancing on a volcano. If the short-term loans are called in by America, a large section of our economy would collapse. So, GCSE students, what we do is, if we're starting our COPS paragraph, we start with content, okay? And the content should be 1/2 sentences long. So in this content, I've put here, in source C, Stresemann is warning Germany about the possible collapse of their economy due to Germany's reliance on American loans. He likens it to Germany dancing on a volcano. If you can quote, I would definitely quote. Don't spend 2 sentences just quoting, okay, because that doesn't really do anything, okay? But if there is a little section, for me, dancing on a volcano really stands out. So I've quoted that. I then have to back it up with my own knowledge. So I'm sitting there, okay, and I'm thinking to myself, what own knowledge do I have that could back up this idea that Germany is dancing on a volcano? So the moment it erupts, disaster is going to happen. So I start the sentence quite simply by saying, from my own knowledge. So from my own knowledge, I am aware that Stresemann improved the economy with the Dawes Plan. The Dawes Plan was an American loan of 800 million to Germany. Germany used this money to reinvest into their factories, following hyperinflation and the occupation of the Ruhr. I have underlined a little section of that own knowledge paragraph. And the reason why I've done that is because so many times when I'm marking your work, okay, I am always saying, expand your explanation. Can you give me a little bit more? It's like making a cake, isn't it? You've got the icing on top, you've got the 3 tiers. I want you to put that cherry on the top. So I've just expanded my own knowledge there. I've expanded my explanation. I could have ended it, couldn't I? Saying Germany used this money to reinvest into their factories. Okay, I could have ended it there. But just giving that extra layer of own knowledge, that extra layer of explanation, just heightens my answer up to that level 3 that we're all aiming for. So then I have to go on to the provenance section of my paragraph. Again, 1 or 2 sentences long. I have to talk about who wrote it. Why did they write it? I might want to use the time period to help me. So I've put here, Stresemann wrote this speech in 1929, where the economy was booming from years worth of recovery. The provenance is helpful because Stresemann was the man who was in charge of the economy during this time, so any warning should have been taken seriously. So in that section there, I have addressed the fact that it was Stresemann who wrote it. I have also addressed the time periods which they are writing it from. But why have I underlined years worth of recovery? Yes, it's because I'm using the wording of the question to keep linking it back to that inquiry. Okay, so the provenance is helpful because Stresemann was the man in charge of the economy. Okay, I'm explaining why I think the provenance is helpful to the inquiry, why I think it's useful. And then finally, a summary, just a sentence long, linking it back to the question. So I've put therefore, I love a therefore. Therefore, source C is useful because Stresemann was predicting the collapse of the economy, which we know is true because in 1929, the same year of this speech, the Wall Street crash happened, devastating Germany. Okay, so in my summary there, I've addressed the question in how useful is source C. I've said that it is useful. I've explained why very briefly. And again, I've added an own little bit of knowledge because I wanted to show off to the examiner. Okay, so you've got my model, you've got the COPS terminology, and you've got the question at the top. What I'd like you to do, please, is I'd like you to have a go at it, but using source B now. It's the same inquiry. It's still asking you how useful it is, but you just have to repeat your second COPS paragraph. So what would be really helpful now, students, is to pause this video and start getting on with the question, okay? All the very best. Make sure you submit it to me for feedback, and I'm hoping this has been really, really helpful for you, okay, in breaking down that COPS question. It is 8 easy marks to get. Remember, there's 52 up for grabs. If we get this 8-mark question right, we get the 16 and the 12, we are looking at a grade 6 minimum. So let's smash it out. Practice, practice, practice. And finally, just before I go, I do have a bank of these that you can use. So again, if you are currently revising for any mock exams or for your real exam, or you're just doing a little bit of revision one evening or one weekend, please do let me know and I'm happy to support you with that. Okay, all the very best. Thank you very much.